I was on a walk when I found a cave. My curiosity got the best of me, and I ended up here. These are the forsaken fables of Valguero. There he was, Prince Edgar of the Mammoths. After his short introduction, he told me his first demand. He said he'd always wanted a princely saddle to reflect his greatness. And I knew I had just the thing. All these materials I'd been collecting allowed me to put together quite the saddle, complete with a feathery headdress and some dangling ice blocks to keep him cool in the hot summer months. He loved it. And in return, he gave me my first bit of guidance. He said to first get my team stronger, we'd have to head to the Green Tower. He also told me he's really good at gathering wood. And while we did that, I noticed that Anki had woken up. And though he was now tamed, he still seemed to have a lot of attitude, even towards the prince here. The tensions were getting spicy. Anyway, I named him Axel and explained to him that he would be my metal guy. I was just worried about one thing. Those spikes protruded a little too far through that saddle. It had me kinda nervous. But we made it work. So long as he doesn't accelerate too fast, I should be just fine. I really hoped he didn't accelerate too fast. But at one point, that was the least of my worries, as we were sprung upon by a couple Saber-tooths out on a hunt. Running wasn't an option. Axel here would have to fight. And he even managed to take one down, but the other was barely showing blood. So I slapped him with one of those bolas to create some distance. And I figured taking him out from a range would be best to deal with this high-level beast. Axel seemed strangely excited to tell everyone about the fight. But when we got back, no one seemed to believe him. But we couldn't mess around anymore. It was time to get everyone together and head to that Green Tower. But then I remembered there was one more thing I'd need Edgar's help with before we left. I'd need him to be my muscle, as I stole cementing paste from some nearby beavers. He was really good at it. Then I used some metal to make myself a nice helmet, and heard no comments from that sassy no-named Raptor. And while wearing that new, really cool helmet, I set my sights on that Green Tower. I was nervous that night was just setting in, but we had no time to waste and had to leave. And Hyenodons even started attacking as we did. But you could tell Edgar had experience dealing with their type. I was feeling pretty optimistic having him around, but soon found that optimism challenged as we found ourselves in a tense standoff with a big group. Then one got close to Tranquilina and there was no hesitation from Edgar. He led the charge. And you could tell he inspired a lot of confidence in the other dinos. It would seem with Edgar around, Hyenodons were dealt with swiftly if they didn't act right. Maybe he was a decent prince after all. But then we saw another Alpha Carno, and I knew even with him around, those were a different story. And then as we pressed on through the night, we spotted a Theri. And unfortunately, it was right in our path. I didn't have a spyglass to inspect it, but we shouldn't have any casualties as long as it's not a high level. So we charged in. And we soon found out when spotting those damage numbers that it was a high level. This was not good. The Raptors even pushed it too fast for Edgar and me to keep up. That had me double nervous. But finally we got in just in time to secure that one last hit and prevent these Raptors from taking any more damage. That almost went really bad, but they managed to come out with only a couple bloodstains. So we decided to press on and finally made it to the base of that Green Tower. Edgar said it had been a while since he'd last been here, but he's pretty sure the energies work the same. He said I'd have to harness the power of the jungle's mumbo jumbo. Only then would I be able to empower my dinos. I thought that's fantastic, but I have no idea how to do that. So he said, check your engrams and type in Raptor, and then you'll see. And so I did, and it was quite the nice pedestal. It had flowing leaves that I just wanted to reach out and touch. And then in it, I crafted some of those jungle Raptor saddles, which wouldn't reduce any damage, but would cause Rain and Little Miss Nameless Raptor to do double their usual damage output. And it also made them look really cool. I dare say these Raptor saddles were really buttering my buns. Edgar had really pulled through on this one. He said it was just the beginning though, and that he'd have another princely demand for me soon. But for now, we'd have to focus on finding more crystal to make soul balls. They'd help us keep the weaker and slower dinos safe, as his next demand would lead us into treacherous territory. But on our search, I spotted 2 alpha raptors, and then we were attacked by saber-tooths. Those saddles definitely came in handy though. And then after the fight, we noticed something about Prince Edgar. He'd been holding out on us. All this way to find some crystal, and he'd had a basket of it on his saddle all along. But he said we can't have those ones, and that he uses them to make all the female mammoths think he's super spiritual. But eventually we did find our own. So I gathered a bit up, and we turned them into soul balls. I started with Axel, and he did let out a couple swears before going in. And then Tranquilina, who, as expected, was super chill about the whole thing. Only now I'd have to hitch Edgar up to the trailer. But there was a bit of a size discrepancy. Either he was too big or this trailer was too small. Either way, it wasn't working. Rain said that I should build a bigger and fancier trailer that might hook up to his princely butt. And I thought that was a pretty good idea. So I did it. And it came out pretty nice. Had a big old hole in the back. It'd definitely work out better because I'd have more room to tinker with all my crafts. Rain and her buddy sure did like the look of it too. Then when I demolished the old one, I saw just how dramatic a wagon can be. And it made me think it was about time to end some of the old drama too. This raptor should have a name. So we went with Rosemary, because her insults were always full of flavor. Rain and Rosemary. Rosemary and Rain. She was definitely excited by all the attention. And then she said my helmet made my head look stupid. She'd been holding back on that one. Anyway, as I was precariously perched on the edge of a cliff, we said goodbye to the Green Tower and pressed forward into the unknown. And wouldn't you know, there were more hyenodons there. Only they were dealing with quite the prince, and they had no idea. Edgar told them to move on, but they cackled in his face. And eventually one of them made a move. They should have listened. Edgar made short work of them, while also gathering us some wood. He was not to be trifled with. I don't think there was much in this world that could pose a threat to Edgar here. Maybe only a Rex or something. Oh, look at that! A Rex coming up to join us. It definitely had me worried, but Edgar didn't budge. I think it's because deep down he knew we had the advantage because we had the high ground. Nothing trumps the high ground. The Rex fought hard, but what did he expect? I had the high ground. But then as we pressed forward, I saw something big rustling behind the tree line. Although at this point, the only thing I'd have left to be afraid of would be a Giga. Oh no. It was a Giga, and I think it saw me.